People were leaving the school building. Ling Si was gathering his things on his desk. Zhu Ting called out to the protagonist and he looked in her direction. With an awkward smile, she said that their school would be holding a sports meet with some other schools. She said that they needed another male student from their class. Zhu Ting said it would be great if he participated. Ling Si asked about the sports meet. Closing his eyes and raising an eyebrow, he thought that he had never participated in any school activity in his past life. Zhu Ting said that there weren't many male students in their class who wanted to participate. She said that's why she had to ask him. Ling Si said he was fine with it and told her to put his name on the list. He thought that although he had never participated in such things, he was sure that everything would go well in this life. Zhu Ting, exclaiming happily, thanked him for supporting her teacher's endeavors. Leaving, the protagonist said that this is what he should do. He said goodbye. Zhu Ting told him to be careful on his way home. Walking out of the school, the protagonist thought that, for some reason, he was a little nervous. He thought it was his first time participating in a school event. Smirking and opening one eye, he thought that he probably needed to stand out as little as possible and would just refrain from using his awakened powers when the time came. He thought that it was better to avoid unnecessary trouble. Ling Si, noticing the crowd in front of him, wondered why they were all piled up at the front gate. Tang Qi told his cousin that it was the same guy. He shouted that the white-haired kid was Ling Si. Ling Si irritably repeated, "White-haired kid." The guy took a cigarette with his teeth and asked about being Ling Si. Tang Qi told him that it was him, and he had already interrupted him many times. The guy with the cigarette said it was something new, and he didn't think there would be anyone in this school who would go against him. He asked about the fact that it couldn't be that he didn't know who he was. A girl in the crowd said that Ling Si was doomed, and of all people, it was Tang Qi's cousin that he hurt. A guy in the crowd said that he heard he was an exchange student and must have accidentally offended Tang Qi. He said that Tang Qi's cousin is the handler of the district, and even the school can't do anything against him. A security guard appeared next to the protagonist and told him that he should probably go back to school because they weren't brave enough to barge in yet. Tang Qi's cousin told the guard to shut up and disappear from his sight. The guard, frightened, panicked. Ling Si thanked him with a smile and said that he was sure he would be all right. Tang Qi's cousin threw away his cigarette and said that he was pretty confident. Frowning, he told him to come over to talk. The protagonist, frowning, thought, what a drag. He thought all he wanted was to not stand out and enjoy a peaceful school life. Ling Si thought, why are there always people who will come to ruin everything, especially when there are so many people around? Tang Qi's cousin grinningly asked him if he really didn't know who he was. The protagonist looked at him and thought that it was Tang Qi's older cousin, and he had some impression of him. He thought that in his past life, he was the most famous bully in the school district, and everyone knew about him, but he didn't try to find out more about him because it didn't concern him in any way. Tang Qi grinningly told Ling Si that this is his cousin and people call him Big East. He said that he is not only an awakened but also the handler of the district. Frowning, Ling Si thought that he was the awakened one. The protagonist asked him what his awakening rate was and if his officials had measured him. They looked at him in surprise. Tang Qi's cousin frowned, a vein ballooning on his face, and he grinned and said that it was interesting. Lighting up with red energy, he furiously asked what he had just asked him. Tang Qi worriedly told him that he wanted him to scare him and didn't want this to get messy. Tang Qi's cousin asked if he was trying to tell him what to do. Tang Qi replied that he is just trying to avoid problems for his sake. Tang Qi's cousin, gritting his teeth angrily, asked what he had to be afraid of in all this. Tang Qi looked at Ling Si and thought why he had to mention it. He thought that because his cousin's awakening rate was not up to par, it had never been measured officially. He thought that he had only recently managed to let it go, and Ling Si would probably be beaten to death. Tang Qi's cousin, reaching out his hand to the protagonist, told him to step back with him for a while. Ling Si, glancing at him, asked if he was sure about it. The protagonist grabbed his elbow. Tang Qi's cousin thought, what's wrong with this guy and his incredible strength? He thought his strength was so overwhelming that he could put up a fight. A guy with a shaved head called out to Big East. The man getting out of the car said that they hadn't seen each other for a long time. Tang Qi, seeing Chris in front of him, exclaimed in surprise that it was Silver Viper, the East District's boss. A man in the crowd wondered why a big shot like him had come here. Another guy shouted to hurry up and get out of the way. Ling Si, letting go of Big East's hand, told Chris that they hadn't seen each other for a long time. Chris said that he just had business not far from here and he didn't expect to see him here. Big East was startled to notice Chris. Chris, calling him Little East, said it had been a long time since he had last seen him. He said that he had gotten stronger. Big East thought in surprise that he was his boss's boss. He wondered how this guy knew Silver Viper. Chris asked Ling Si if he had time. He suggested that they have dinner together. The protagonist picked up his bag and said he would have to decline his offer because he needed to go home. A security guard in the crowd said in surprise that he knew their boss. Another car stopped nearby. A military jeep appeared in front of them. Tang Qi exclaimed in surprise that it was wild beasts from the army. Another guy asked what a vehicle of this level was doing here. A guy in the crowd said that it must be a high-ranking military officer. A girl with her hair gathered into a ponytail asked what the military was doing here. A security guard, who had only recently been hired, asked confusedly what was going on and why big shots of all walks of life were showing up at the same time. He asked if they couldn't let the guard do his job in peace. The military man got out of the car and saluted Ling Si. He said the general requested his presence. He asked him to get in the car. Chris said it didn't look like he was going to give him a treat today. The military man asked the protagonist to get in the car. Ling Si thought about the fact that these guys were sent here by the general. He thought that it looked like it was something urgent and he couldn't refuse. He agreed and said that they owed him dinner. Tang Si asked in surprise what exactly is his background. He said that the hooligans, underground and military came here just for him. Chris smirked and said that Ling Si is a busy man, and given his caliber, he is not at all surprised that he has connections in the military. Chris, waving his hand, said that he was leaving as well. He asked him about being in charge of the area. He said that Ling Si's needs are equal to his needs and he should make sure to help him as best as he can. Big East and Tang Qi obeyed. The main character sitting in the car asked what was going on and what was the sudden call. The guy driving said it was an emergency and direct orders from the general. Frowning, he said there was a rebel organization made up of awakened and some of them are extraordinarily strong. He said that the general wants him to destroy this organization by tonight. Ling Si sat with his arms folded on his chest, illuminated by the sun from the window. The setting sun colored the sky above the building surrounded by trees with orange. Ling Si asked about what they wanted him to take care of before tonight. He asked why there was such a rush. Adolf said that the general is not the kind of person who would allow even the slightest threat to develop into an unknown probability. He said that exterminating such things at once was the wisest course of action. Turning around, he said that awakened ones were the type of people that no one could afford to underestimate. Ling Si thought that this was true, and all awakened have the potential to become a big threat, and they can't relax. Adolf said that the general had given him full authority over this matter, and he would also mediate between Ling Si and the army from this day forward. He said that if there was anything he needed or didn't understand, he could just contact him. Ling Si, frowning, said that he didn't need anything right now and he just wanted to get this over with quickly and go home. He said to give him the address and asked what time he would be leaving. Adolf, opening the box, said, "Right now." Holding the phone in his hand, he told Ling Si to take it. He said that from now on, he would use it for mission and emergency notifications. Adolf added that he was forbidden to use it for any other purpose. Ling Si picked up the phone and a dialogue box opened in front of him. He said that he got the location of the rebel organization. He said that he will be off now. Looking at the map, he asked if someone would send him there. Adolf replied that he would have to get there on his own because military vehicles would attract too much attention and might alert the enemy. He added that they didn't have full information about the abilities of the rebel organization yet, so the army couldn't afford to act rashly. The main character said that this place is pretty far away. Adolf said that since they are hiding in a residential area, it's even harder for them to do anything about it. And that's also the main reason why they decided to send him there. The protagonist, frowning, said that it's a drag. He said he would take a cab then. Adolf, smirking, said that the general asked him to tell him that the new house he asked for was ready. He said that when he returned from his assignment, he would take him to see the new place. Adolf said that he chose it himself, so he was sure he wouldn't be disappointed. Ling Si turned around and flashed his eyes with a smirk and thanked him. He thought that he was reminding him that he would get the reward if he successfully completed the task, and could forget about it if he failed. There were cars driving on the road. Ling Si got out of the cab and thought that, according to the marked location, the rebel organization was in a slum. He thought that still, there was a considerable distance between this place and his home. Frowning, he thought about the slums. A girl in a red dress standing on the street offered the protagonist some entertainment. Ling Si thanked the offer and said he didn't want to at all. As he walked up the stairs, he thought that he didn't have any plan at all, and he would figure out what to do on the spot. Ling Si, finding himself in a room full of construction debris, thought he was on the spot. Looking at the dialogue box, he thought that he only knew that it was here somewhere, but he wasn't sure where exactly. A voice called out to him and asked if he had come to join them. A man leaning back against a pillar said it was speaking to him. He asked if he was the awakened one, who was the one who had been awakened. Smirking, he asked if he had come to join them, the Neo-Avengers. Several people in strange outfits were sitting around a fire in a barrel. A guy in a blue superhero costume with a star greeted the main character in Neo-Avengers and said his name was Captain Superbia. The girl with blonde hair and black clothing was named White Widow. The guy in the red cape with the high collar was named Dr. Weird, and the full guy in the green shirt that was too small for him was named the Bulk. The guy with the hammer in his hand grinned and said his name was Electro Thor. He asked Ling Si if he had made up an alias for himself. Ling Si thought that they were probably the ones he was looking for. He wondered what was wrong with them. The Bulk exclaimed happily that they had found a new rookie and the Neo Avengers would only get stronger. He said that one day they would get the army to recognize and respect their existence and provide them with the treatment they deserved. Captain Superbia said with a smirk that their rebellion was sure to pay off, and when all the eliminated Awakened came together, they would be a force to be reckoned with. Ling Si thought that now he understood, and they are a bunch of rejects who are unhappy with their current situation and cannot go on and on about rebellion and such. He thought about why he needed to deal with these weirdos. He thought about what he had done to deserve it. Turning around, Ling Si said it looked like he had gotten the address wrong. He told them to have fun. Electro Thor, extending his arm, told him not to leave. He told him to join them because they had a great future ahead of them. He said that the Awakened must come together. The protagonist called Adolf and told him that he had found the organization, but that he didn't think there was anything to worry about because they were just a bunch of Awakened who had been eliminated. He said that in terms of skills, they probably couldn't even beat a regular soldier. Adolf asked what he was talking about and if he meant to say that there was some kind of mistake in the army data. He said that the data they had received clearly stated that they were a rebel organization, and there was a particularly strong Awakened among them. Adolf said that there are many strange alliances in the slums, and he must have run into the wrong group. A huge flame erupted behind the protagonist. A voice behind Ling Si said that they couldn't just leave. The Neo Avengers stood in front of him, and Captain Superbia asked if he was looking down on them. The girl standing amidst the flames asked that if he hadn't come here to join them, did that mean he had been sent by the officials? Electro Thor exclaimed that she was back, calling her Big Sis. The red-clothed girl, surrounded by flames, asked with a smirk about him being an Awakened. Grinning, she said she couldn't believe that the military actually sent an Awakened to fight them. She said they were spineless cowards. Frowning, the girl said that he was just a traitor to the Awakened. Ling Si told Adolf that it looks like he was wrong, and now they are all here. Captain Superbia, frowning, said that the military is really using the Awakened. He said having them fight each other was exactly what they wanted to see. He told the girl to let him finish him off. He offered to throw his head on the girl's doorstep as a demonstration. The girl told him to proceed. Throwing a shield at the protagonist, Captain Superbia told him not to blame them for being rough because he chose to be their chain dog. Ling Si, looking at the approaching shield, said with disdain that he wasn't even qualified to be near him. The protagonist kicked the shield away and it flew upwards. The girl said with a smirk that it seemed to be an Awakened with skills. Rushing forward, she told them not to give him a chance to even catch his breath. She suggested they all attack together. Captain Superbia caught his shield. The protagonist said that it seemed to be a firefighting mage. He said that the fact that it was able to summon game weapons was really impressive. Frowning, Ling Si thought that since this person was capable of summoning weapons, her awakening rate should not be low. He thought that she was much stronger than the 54% guy he met on the dimension. The girl said that he had good perception, but she wouldn't go easy on him simply because he was alone. Ling Si, surrounded by blue energy, asked them about them trying to overwhelm him with their numbers. He grinned. After using Dominion of the Mercenary, Ling Si said with a smirk that he really wanted to try it out in real life. 3 spectral warriors appeared around him. A cloud of dust rose in front of the Neo Avengers. Ling Si, surrounded by his spectral warriors, thought that he was actually able to summon his skills in real life. The girl jumped in the air, dodging the spectral warriors. Gritting her teeth, she said with a chuckle that it looked like it would be the toughest opponent they had faced. She said that it was the greatest obstacle in the path of the Great Resistance Army. Ling Si thought that he didn't expect that he would be able to use Dominion of the Mercenary so easily, and he expected that it would take him a few more tries. He thought it was going better than he expected. Electro Thor told the girl to stop listening to his ramblings, and even if he was stronger than them, with their numbers they would have no problem defeating him together. He said that as the saying goes, it's hard for 2 fists to fight with 4 hands. He exclaimed that he would like to see how strong he was. The girl, laughing, said that his words gave her a boost of confidence. Raising a hammer shrouded in electricity, Electro Thor said, "Neo Avengers." The girl looked up at him with a smile. The Bulk tore at his shirt. In front of Dr. Weird was a yellow magic circle. Captain Superbia, putting his shield forward, said, "Assemble." Ling Si, surrounded by spectral warriors, thought he had to admit he was pretty united. The girl shouted to them not to get carried away by their emotions and not to throw into the battle without thinking. She shouted for them to listen to her instructions. Electro Thor shouted to follow him, and they rushed into battle. Ling Si thought, this something Thor seems to be an electro-elemental awakened, and most likely his class warrior. He thought, this old man seems to be a mage, and this full guy is probably a tank. He assumed that the girl was a thief and decided that it didn't matter. Ling Si thought that it looked like their team had only recently gotten together and only this martial mage girl had any skills. Rushing forward, he thought that he would just split them up and attack directly at their commander. The spectral warrior hit the shield. White Widow, noticing the twin daggers, said he was a thief. Leaping to attack the main character, she said she would show him the mighty legs of a thief. With a kick of her foot, she used the mighty legs. Ling Si dodged the blow, and Electro Thor screamed, swinging his hammer. The protagonist looked at the approaching hammer while gritting his teeth. Electro Thor and White Widow struck Ling Si, and Electro Thor shouted that they would finish him off. The girl frowned and said that a person of his level couldn't be defeated so easily, and it might be a trap. Ling Si used evil spirit's invisibility, and Electro Thor and White Widow were surrounded by a purple evil spirit. Ling Si thought that he had misjudged them. The bulk was fighting a spectral warrior. The protagonist thought that these Avengers were not as easy to defeat as he thought. Captain Superbia and Dr. Weird fought the spectral warriors. Frowning, Ling Si thought that the awakened in real life are really something else. He thought that since the numerical advantage was on their side, he had better finish this quickly. The girl, while running with a staff in her hand, thought he must be nearby. Frowning and gritting her teeth, she thought he was holding back her teammates with that cloning skill. She figured she was his real target. The girl used Devouring Fire Snake and shouted for him to come out. She said that Devouring Fire Snake could automatically detect and devour the nearest enemies, and even though it was invisible, it had nowhere to hide. Ling Si, dodging her flames, asked if that was the case. He thought about the fact that it was fire. The protagonist used Elemental Manifestation, Cover Water, and Backstab, and a watery Ling Si appeared above the girl's head. A stream of water rained down on her flames. Looking at the fog in front of them, the guy asked what kind of fog it was. He said that the big sis was surrounded. They heard a voice shouting that it was enough and the outcome was already clear. Holding a ball of water above his head, Ling Si told them that their big sis had been captured. They called out to the big sis. The girl was trapped in the water balloon. Dr. Weird said it was over and even big sis couldn't defeat him. Captain Superbia fell to his knees and said that big sis was the one who gave them strength and they lost. He said that Neo Avengers is going to be disassembled. Pressing buttons on his phone, the protagonist thought the mission was accomplished. Frowning, he thought he was glad he made a right call this time, and this big sis should be the center of their group. He figured that if these Avengers really were to assemble, they would be a difficult opponent. There was a police car parked next to the building. Adolf said that they expected him to be done with it in less than 3 hours. He said his efficiency was astounding and he would report the results to the general. Adolf praised Ling Si for his excellent work. He said he could care less about their new home, and he will make time to send him and his grandfather there. The protagonist replied that he was in no hurry. He asked if he was worried about coming to a slum like that. Adolf told him not to worry about it because without the Awakened giving them trouble, they can control the area well. Ling Si asked what the army was going to do with this so-called resistance army. Adolf, looking seriously ahead, said that these Avengers will be looked after and rehabilitated. He said that they were still awakened and they might be useful to them in the future. A handcuffed girl in red clothing walked by them. Adolf said that regarding their leader, rebelling against the army was an unpardonable offense and she would be given a special death sentence. Ling Si asked in surprise about the death sentence. He said they may be rebels, but they have not committed some unpardonable crime and her crime does not deserve death. The girl said she didn't need him to stick up for her. She said the only thing she wants to know is why someone as strong as him wants to be an army dog. Soaking wet, she said that with his strength, he should continue to lead the misguided. Ling Si raised an eyebrow and thought that she was a strange person. Looking after her, he thought that she was the only one who would be executed. He wondered if it was because they were afraid of causing a backlash if they destroyed too many Awakened at once. Entering the game, Ling Si thought that this was a difficult situation. He wondered if he had made the right decision. The dialogue box said, "Congratulations on finishing a mission in real life. You have received extra experience. It will be transferred into your account automatically once you log in." Ling Si looked at his dagger. The dialogue box said, "Your bone knife of the undead mercenary has been upgraded into silver grade. The minion of the mercenary has been upgraded. You may now summon 2 spectral giants to aid you in battle. The spectral giants' attributes will change depending on your attributes." The protagonist, looking at his dagger, thought that he hadn't paid much attention to the progress of his weapon and he hadn't even noticed how it had improved. The dialogue box says, "Dominion of the Mercenary, Phase 3. Phase 3 mission description, with the bone knife of the undead mercenary equipped, kill 100 Lord rank monsters." Phase 3 mission rewards, the bone knife of the undead mercenary will be upgraded to gold, and the weapon attributes will change accordingly. When equipped with bone knife of the undead mercenary, the skill Dominion of the Mercenary may be used. Skill description, Dominion of the Mercenary, you may now summon 2 skeletal Tsar to aid you in battle. The skeletal Tsar's attributes will change depending on your attributes. Mission progress, 0 out of 100. The protagonist, frowning, thought that since he had gotten a few levels over the past few days, he would help Nebulous climb the 12 cities Torchfire rankings. He thought that it looked like their main opponents were the number 1 and number 2 guilds. Ling Si thought that in this lifetime, he was sure that he would one day be able to surpass these two great figures. He decided to take advantage of this DLC and meet up. Ling Si thought that guild number 1 was Advent of 1,000 Autumns, and guild number 2 was Divine Chamber. People are standing in the square around a huge blue flame. The guy in the helmet, gritting his teeth tensely and tapping his fingers on the dialogue box, said that there was a special torchfire battle today, and it's a point-based competition. He said that there are only 1,000 positions, and even entering this competition is a speed competition. The guy said that special torchfire battle has an extremely low chance of appearing, and the rules of this battle are different every time, and it is very interesting. He said that even if they could get a position, each guild or workshop could only send 2 of their members, and then his days of loneliness would finally end. The man behind him, trying to calm him down, said it was just a game. The guy with dark hair said that from the 2 they've had so far, Advent of 1,000 Autumns took first place the first time and Divine Chamber won the second time. He said that once the top 2 guilds became serious, the other guilds wouldn't be able to do anything anymore. The guy with blonde hair agreed and said that even Wolfsfang, who were in third place, couldn't match the top 2 guilds in terms of overall combat strength and number of elites. The guy with dark hair scratched the back of his head and said that he had heard that the top 2 guilds were very strict in their entry requirements. He asked if he just knew the ranking boards for the various classes. He said that the top 10 on those lists are always members of either 1,000 Autumn or Divine Chamber. The guy said that it looks like they will be the winners again in this battle. He added that they still don't have a say in whether or not they can take part. With an awkward laugh, he said that it's up to the higher-ups to decide. Stillwaters told Ling Si via dialogue that they would be counting on him this time. The protagonist asked if he could back out. He said that he was going to do solo missions, and a special mission like this attracts too much attention and isn't really his thing. Stillwaters replied that it wouldn't work that way. He said that he is still a part of Nebulous, so he has to go along with their arrangements. He added that he had sent Coco Lai to help him. He asked him to do him a favor and go along with her. Stillwaters said that he can't lose. He told him to meet her at the registration area and wished him luck. The dialogue box said that the call was over. Ling Si asked in surprise that he had hung up so suddenly. He said that he hadn't even agreed yet. Ling Si, frowning irritably, said that he hated it when his video calls were dropped like that. Scratching the back of his head, he thought about Vice Guildmaster taking part as well. He figured it would be a real shame if they lost. Stillwaters, sitting at the long table, said that he was confident that 1,000 Autumns and Divine Chamber would send their best professionals this time, and they needed to be careful. Folding his hands on the table, he said that they must not forget their main mission. Frowning, Stillwaters folded his hands in front of his face and said that she should see with her own eyes if Ling Si was capable of leading Nebulous with his current strength. He told her to consider this the last time she helps him measure his strength for him. Coco Lai said that he should know that he is pretty strict. She said that while she supported his choice, she hoped he would turn out to be disappointed. Frowning, Coco Lai thought that all she knows about Ling Si's abilities are just rumors, and this time she will observe him in person. The dialogue box read, "Submission of participants' names for the special torchfire battle will begin in 3 minutes. All participants, please gather at the meeting point." The bell rings. The dialogue box says, "The special torchfire battle will be streamed live for all viewers to spectate." A man in the crowd enthusiastically said that they would indeed be streaming it live. He exclaimed that he would finally be able to take this chance to learn some skill combinations from the pros. Another man was rushing the event to start soon. He said that he had already bet 3 gold that 1,000 Autumn would take first place, and although the winnings would be very small, he would definitely win. Special Torchfire Battle Registration Area. Ling Si, walking down the corridor, thought about the fact that the information of the players in the registration area was hidden. He assumed that it was to prevent the participants from knowing the classes and equipment of others beforehand. Coco Lai told him that she was here. She said she was worried if he would even show up. Ling Si said that since it was the guild head's request, there was nothing that could be done. Coco Lai said Stillwaters has already registered them in advance, and right up ahead are their designated resting. She said that since it's point-based competitive, there will most likely be multiple stages. She said that since it's being broadcast live, there will be a chance to rest and recuperate after each stage. Ling Si folded his hands in his pockets and said unhappily that he wouldn't even be able to keep a low profile because of the broadcast. Coco Lai, frowning, said that since he was the person Stillwaters had bet on, he had better get used to being the center of attention as soon as possible. Ling Si unenthusiastically suggested that they should tell each other about their current status first so that they can work better together. Coco Lai said that she is level 50, a summoner archer, and her special post-promotion skill is parallel summon. She explained that, in simple words, she can use summon arrows to summon other units. She said that regarding the rest, he could look at her status window that she had already sent him. Ling Si, reasoning about level 50, thought that nothing less was expected from a vice guildmaster of one of the 5 major guilds. He thought that the resources and efficiency of these guilds were truly astounding. The protagonist thought that, in comparison, even though he had completed several Torchfire missions over the past few days, he had only gotten to level 42. Following Coco Lai, he thought that her stats were also amazing, and her equipment consisted of incredibly good items that were difficult to obtain at the moment. He thought that her overall capability was roughly the same as what he had heard about in his past life, and in short, she was a goddess in the eyes of ordinary players. Coco Lai folded her arms on her chest and asked him if he was going to tell her anything about himself. She said that he had withheld his player information. She told him to hurry up and send it to her. Ling Si, holding a mug in his hand, said that there was no need because the fact that he knew her information was enough. Coco Lai, frowning, said that he was the one who said that they could work better together if they shared their information about the player with each other. She said Stillwaters asked her to work with him, but his attitude is terrible. Coco Lai turned around and said that he should know the difficulty of this mission, and the contestants from Thousand Autumn and Divine Chamber are serious opponents. The protagonist said to trust him. He said with a confident smirk that he knows what they can do better than anyone else. Ling Si said he needed her to trust his every move from now on. He asked her to back him up. Coco Lai thought about his confidence. She smiled and put her hands on her waist. She thought she would just wait and see. Ling Si thought that the reason he agreed to this was because he wanted to see members from the top 2 guilds. He thought that he wanted to compare himself to the professionals from Thousand Autumn and Divine Chamber. He thought that he was also very curious as to how far he could go right now. Coco Lai told him that he had rested enough. She told him to get ready because the countdown will start soon. The dialogue box says, break time is coming to an end. The first stage will commence in 10 seconds. Good luck. A bow appeared in Coco Lai's hand. Ling Si stood behind her. A dialogue box announced that teleportation had been activated. They found themselves in a dense forest. A human figure emerged from the blue portal. The dialogue box said, welcome to the special Torchfire battle, Stage 1, Wolf and Sheep. Ling Si looked at the dialogue box. Frowning, he asked about wolf and sheep. There was a picture of a wolf and sheep on the dialogue box. The rules are as follows: between you and your teammate, decide who will take on the role of the sheep and the role of the wolf. Ling Si and Coco Lai looked at the dialogue boxes. The next one said, wolves may hunt down the sheep of other teams. For every sheep killed, your team gains 1 point. If your team's sheep is taken out by another team's wolf, your team will be eliminated and you will lose all your battle points. On the dialogue box there was an image of a wolf attacking another team's sheep and then an image of a falling man with 0 points. Teams that have dropped to 0 points will be immediately booted back to the lounge area to wait for the second stage to begin. The competition will end when only 100 teams remain. The rankings will be determined by the team's total points. The 100th place team will obtain 100 Torchfire, the 99th place will obtain 99 Torchfire, and so on. Ling Si looked at the dialogue box. It said, there are 1,000 teams participating in this battle. Please decide who will take on the roles of the wolf and the sheep within the next minute. Good luck. Coco Lai said that, in other words, it is a competition of teamwork and speed. She said thoughtfully that it is interesting. Ling Si, landing next to her, said that he looked around and there are no opponents nearby yet. He said that they could discuss their strategy here. Coco Lai grinned and praised him for being cautious. Ling Si, frowning, said that he will sum things up. He said that one person will be the wolf and the other will be the sheep. The wolf could kill the other team's sheep to get 1 point, and if the sheep team's sheep is killed, they would lose all their points and be out for the rest of the round. Ling Si said thoughtfully that all teams are 1,000 and the competition will continue until there are 100 teams left. Coco Lai frowned and said that in other words, no matter how many sheep they killed and how many points they got, once a sheep died, it would all be wasted. The protagonist grinned. Regardless of whether he was a sheep or a wolf, there'd be some pressure either way. He said that the decision of being a wolf and a sheep is very important. Coco Lai told him to hurry up and decide because there wasn't much time left. A bow appeared in her hand and he said, jumping to the side, but they still need to find a place that will give them an advantage. She said that they would start losing from the start if the stronger teams could get good spots first. Coco Lai suggested that he wants to be a wolf. She said that with his flexibility and potential to kill the enemy with a single thief strike, he is really more suited for the role of a wolf than an archer. Ling Si objected with a smile. Looking at the dialogue box, he said that he wanted to be a sheep because he had a better idea. It is a vast forested area surrounded by high city walls. It's a brutal place similar to a coliseum. Inside there are 1,000 teams, that is 2,000 players. Each of them will take on the role of a wolf or a sheep and play out a battle of trapped beasts. Above the head of a man with gray hair was a wolf sign and a sign saying that he belonged to the Shrouded Rain Guild and had received 12 points. He said that this would be the place where they would camp. Looking at the map, the guy said they were on the perimeter where it would be relatively safe. He added that they shouldn't relax anyway. The armor guy suggested that they keep doing what they are doing. He said that as long as they stay away from these ridiculously strong guilds, they'll be fine. He said that he would just lay low and wait for a chance to get points if possible. The guy with gray hair yelled at him to be careful. The guy in armor looked in front of him. He jumped back, yelling to step back. Red magic hit the ground next to him. The guy with gray hair, surrounded by a blue barrier, asked about the elemental spell. The mage with green hair said she wanted to kill them in one hit with it. The guy behind her said their movements had become sluggish, so they didn't need to hide anymore. He said to go for the kill. The mage told him that they were hiding so they wouldn't get ambushed themselves. The guy jumped down from the tree and said they were from Shrouded Rain. The guy with gray hair looked up and shouted that it was an ambush. Above the dark-haired guy's head was a wolf sign and a sign saying that he was from the Churchill Fire Guild and that he had earned 21 points. He said with a smirk that they, the Churchill Guild members, would give them a chance to surrender. The guy with gray hair, noticing that they were from Churchill, said that they had been attacking them constantly lately. He said they were terribly unlucky to meet them. The guy in armor ran forward and said that even if they fell here, they should fight them to the end. The guy with dark hair shouted that their lives would end here. The mage was surprised to see movement from above. Coco Lai shot an arrow at her, casting a cripple effect. Ling Si hit the guy with dark hair in the back, also applying cripple on him. Coco Lai shot 2 magical yellow arrows from her bow. The arrows hit the backs of the mage and her comrade. Ling Si landed in front of the guy in armor. He yelled out that it was Nebulous from the top 5. He yelled to run. Above Ling Si had a sheep sign and a sign saying that he was from Nebulous and had earned 114 points. The guy with gray hair asked why he was panicking. Pointing his finger forward, he shouted at him about how he was just a sheep and he couldn't kill them. Gritting his teeth, the guy said that this sheep was just offering himself to them and he was just clearly asking for it. Ling Si shortened the distance, and the guy with gray hair exclaimed in surprise about how fast he was. Ling Si said that judging from this situation, a wolf was being sent to be beheaded. He swung his dagger with an evil smile. Ling Si said that sheep can't deal killing blow, but he can still deal damage and status ailments. He said that he would just leave them with some health and Coco Lai would finish them off. Coco Lai stood next to the fallen humans from Shrouded Rain. The main character smirked and said that, in that case, killing blows are still done by a wolf. Coco Lai asked why, despite being a wolf, inflicting all those killing blows feels so stifling. Ling Si replied that it relieves her of the extra burden. He asked if that's a good thing. The protagonist said there are quite a few weak teams around the perimeter. He said their way of thinking, to stay on the perimeter and not show their heads, is too predictable. Coco Lai frowned and thought that she couldn't wholeheartedly agree with this arrangement. But following his plan, things are going very smoothly so far. She remembered how Ling Si said that he wanted to be a sheep because he had a better idea. Coco Lai asked in surprise about him being a sheep. The protagonist asked with a chuckle if she thought he looked like a sheep. Coco Lai, frowning, said, not in the least bit. She asked if it would be better for a thief like him to be a wolf. Coco Lai said that if she was a sheep, he could cover for her. She added that sheep were forbidden to kill, and she thought he would definitely want to be a wolf. Ling Si said with a smile that sheep were forbidden to kill, but they didn't say anything about sheep being forbidden to attack. He said that in that case, it would be a much greater advantage for them if he was a sheep because he could ensure that not only would he not be killed, but he would also be able to create opportunities for her to inflict a killing blow. Ling Si told her to go because he had found his next target. Coco Lai, looking at his back, thought that just like he said, all this time he had been creating all sorts of opportunities for her. She thought that although he is a sheep, he is taking the initiative to hunt other wolves. Pressing her lips together, she thought that he was even more brutal than a wolf. Looking at him, she imagined the look of a wolf. Coco Lai thought that this Ling Si is just a wolf in sheep's clothing. A person shouted that there were 120 teams left and it looked like it would be over soon. Another person said that another pair of teams would start fighting soon. He asked why they could show closer. He exclaimed that this is terrible. The dialogue box says that there are 116 teams left. The man with dark hair frowned and exclaimed that there were only 116 commands left. He told the camera to switch to the 1,000 Autumn people as soon as possible. He yelled that he was nervous. The guy asked if he thought he saw a sheep dash brazenly towards the other team's wolf. The guy with the short hair said he saw it too, and it looked like a thief. He said he couldn't see what guild he was from because he was too fast, so they switched to another scene. The girl with red hair asked if there was such a thing. She said that there had been too many highlights already and he couldn't catch all the details. The girl said that he must be from Divine Chamber or 1,000 Autumns, because only crazy professionals from those two guilds would dare to use such a strategy. Someone shouted while looking at the screen that it was a team from Divine Chamber, and the broadcast finally shows the professional players from Divine Chamber. A girl asked to be shown some scenes with the 1,000 Autumn Guild. The dialogue box says that the Divine Chamber Guild received 162 points. The guy with black hair exclaimed that they had already gotten 162 points. Pointing at the screen, he exclaimed that this was one of the top 3 tanks from Divine Chamber, Student Inch. He said that he's never fit the role of a sheep better because he's invincible. The guy with the short hair asked why Student Inch was alone and where was the wolf from their team. The guy next to him exclaimed that Student Inch was about to run into the other team. The guy with black hair asked which guild their opponent belonged to. The guy said that he would look in the broadcast alerts right now. He exclaimed in surprise that, with a score of 116 kills, it was the Nebulous Guild. On Student Inch's back was a picture of a demon's face. A guy in the crowd exclaimed that the Nebulous Guild was finished. Student Inch folded his arms across his chest and greeted his friends from Nebulous. He said that he was glad to finally meet someone from the top 5. Student Inch said with a smile that he was starting to get bored after meeting nothing but small fry along the way. Coco Lai told the protagonist that they had encountered people from Divine Chamber. She said that their opponent was Student Inch, one of the top 3 tanks of their guild. She told him to be careful. Ling Si asked about their encounter with them. He said with a smirk that he was his next target. Student Inch said with a smile that he could take a lot of hits. He told them to attack him and have some fun. Ling Si told Coco Lai that she didn't need to do anything this time. She asked what he was talking about since the wolf hadn't shown up yet. The protagonist said that their wolf won't come here and he thinks he's gone hunting alone. Ling Si said that it seems like their strategy is a little more radical than his. Student Inch held a shield with a golden image of a demon in it. The protagonist said that he was just using his role as a sheep to torment his opponents. Student Inch and Ling Si stood opposite each other. The protagonist with a dagger in his hand said that it was a battle between them sheep. There was a battle going on in the forest. Ling Si struck with his dagger and Student Inch blocked the blow with his shield. Ling Si said that since their wolves would not interfere, they would find out who had stronger sheep horns. He smirked. Student Inch said that was interesting. He said he decided to stick around and have some fun when he spotted Nebulous's vice guildmaster, Coco Lai. Student Inch said he had heard that Coco Lai's style of summoner archery was quite troublesome, and he wanted to try it out for himself. He said with a smile that unfortunately, Nebulous didn't have any thieves that would make him expect anything from them. Frowning, he said as his aura caught his attention. Student Inch, standing with shield in hand, said that perhaps he would prove to be an interesting prey after all. Coco Lai frowned, thinking that she had only seen Student Inch, one of the top 3 tanks in Divine Chamber, once in a guild battle in the past. Watching the battle, she thought that back then, Wolf's Fang had used approximately 20 people to besiege 3 Divine Chamber guild members. Coco Lai thought that it was said that they wanted their equipment, but she wasn't sure why exactly. Coco Lai thought that Nebulous was fighting in a guerrilla battle nearby, so she was able to notice what was going on between them. She remembered watching Wolf's Fang and Divine Chamber battle. Coco Lai thought that the Wolf's Fang members weren't professionals, but they had a numerical advantage, and dealing with them was still a problematic matter. Thinking back to when she was sitting in the tree, she thought that if she rushed in alone, even though she could save the 3 of them, it would take her quite some time. She thought that what she saw had rendered her speechless. Coco Lai thought that by using the casualties of war skill, Student Inch had created a huge coliseum, leaving the 20 members of Wolf's Fang with no way to escape. She thought that for the next 10 minutes, Student Inch strolled around casually as if he was in a garden in his own backyard. With his terrifyingly high defense stats, he took on all sorts of attacks while he taunted them, looking as calm as possible. Coco Lai remembered Student Inch's coldly calm smile. She thought that she couldn't sense any killing intent from the expression on his face. He felt a depraved aura emanating from him. Standing with a bow in her hands, Coco Lai thought that he looked like there was a morbid persona underneath that eternal facade who enjoyed torturing his opponents. She thought that while she was sure she wouldn't lose to someone like him, it was the kind of opponent she wanted to face the least. Coco Lai thought that she wanted Ling Si to show her how he would deal with such an opponent. Ling Si said that he was sure he would have more than just expectations for the thieves from Nebulous afterwards. The main character was surrounded by electricity. Student Inch frowned gloomily. Ling Si stabbed Student Inch in the back with a dagger. Frowning, he wondered if he had managed to hit him so easily. Student Inch used pain dampening, and a spiral of green energy appeared in front of his back. He said that he didn't expect Nebulous to have a thief with that kind of speed. The dialogue box described pain dampening, a warrior-exclusive passive skill. A powerful warrior shrugs off the pain from physical attacks and seems to have ignored the damage taken as well. Effect, passive skill. For 6 seconds, minus 99% to all physical damage taken. In addition, the player will not be affected by any effects from physical attacks. Student Inch turned around and said with a smirk, unfortunately, even with his speed, his attacks were no more than a tickle to him. Ling Si thought in surprise, a forced throw. Student Inch, reaching forward with his hand, told him to enjoy his torture. Throw, a term for skills used to get close to one's opponent. These are usually grabbing skills. Student Inch grabbed Ling Si by the throat and told him that he couldn't let him run from him. With his foot on the ground, Student Inch used feint-inducing throw, reverse shoulder toss and slammed the protagonist to the ground. A huge cloud of dust rose up around them. The guy with black hair looking at the screen exclaimed that it was a good skill, as expected from one of the best tanks from Divine Chamber. He noted his speed of reaction and the way he pulled it off. The guy in armor exclaimed that he was willing to bet that this no-name thief was down for the count after that one hit. The man in the wizard hat objected and said that given Student Inch's character, he must have left him some HP to enjoy stretching his enjoyment. Coco Lai, looking into the cloud of dust, thought that he looked slow and clumsy, but his reaction speed and skill selection were incredibly fast and vicious. Frowning, he thought that it was time for Ling Si to stop pretending to be dead and show his real skills. Coco Lai thought that she could sense it and his aura was still just as strong. Student Inch looked in front of him in surprise. The protagonist in front of him had turned into a purple evil spirit. Ling Si, using evil spirit's invisibility and elemental manifestation burning lava, found himself behind his opponent's back, surrounded by flames. Student Inch asked what was going on after noticing the fire spell. Ling Si, smirking, said that not all thieves could only deal physical damage. Ling Si used elemental manifestation burning lava and throat slasher. Student Inch covered himself with his shield from the blow, wondering why he had such powerful elemental spells. A strike from the main character shrouded in flames pushed Student Inch back. Above his head, his health bar was seen to be down to almost half, and he gritted his teeth. Blood spurted out from the cut on his cheek. Ling Si, surrounded by yellow energy, said with a smirk that only a third of his health was gone, and it seemed that his magic resistance was quite high. Student Inch struck the ground with his shield. Using strong recovery domain, surrounded by a whirlwind of green energy, he began to recover his health. Smirking, he asked if, because of the post-promotion special class, he could use these strange elemental spells. Student Inch said that he must admit that he was the most dangerous thief that he had met to this day, and had earned the right to see his full power. Ling Si asked with a smile that he said he had earned the right to see his full strength. Surrounded by magic circles, he used Dominion of the Mercenary and said that he had messed up. The protagonist said with a smirk that, like he said earlier, they didn't meet by accident, and it seemed he couldn't keep a low profile anymore. Two spectral giants appeared around the protagonist. Ling Si said that his purpose was so that he could measure how far he had traveled. He suggested that he call his wolf. Student Inch stood with a serious face, frowning. Ling Si used Summon Knight of the Glorious. A huge knight stood behind the protagonist, and he said that he would now return the same words he had said to him earlier. With a smirk, he said, "Come at me together, Divine Chamber. Let's have some fun." A man in the crowd looking at the screen asked who the thief was and why he couldn't see his ID. The red-haired girl said he had hidden his personal information. The girl with the short hair asked about the figure he summoned being Moonlight City's headless horseman. She asked why he looked so much like that guy. The guy next to her with sparkling eyes exclaimed about how cool it was. He said he also had 2 skeleton generals with him. He asked if he was a thief or a mage. Ling Si on the screen was standing with a knight behind him. The guy asked about if anyone knew this big shot and since when did Nebulous have such a professional. The guy with the dark hair said he looked a bit like Captain Shadow, who everyone kept talking about recently. Another person exclaimed that it couldn't be. She asked if it was the Shadow who had rushed up the team ranking board a while ago. She asked about how it couldn't be that it was the same person. Ling Si looked forward with a smirk. Coco Lai thought about summon skills and magic elemental spells. She thought about how many secrets this guy has. She glanced to the side. The guy in the tree called out Student Inch and asked what happened. He said he saw them fighting when he came here. Deesman asked what was wrong with the guy. He asked about him being a sheep. The guy said that's quite the summon he's got. Student Inch frowned, thinking that he needed to stay calm and he couldn't let something like that scare him. He thought, really a little out of his depth with his ability and skills. Student Inch thought that he had met countless professionals and quite a few who were stronger than him, but he had never met anyone like him who had taken him completely by surprise. Looking at Ling surrounded by the 2 skeleton generals and the huge knight, he thought that the aura he was exuding was too strange. Student Inch thought that the guild had chosen him for this competition, and he had even boasted about needing a regular guild member to go with him. Frowning, he figured he'd be fine if he didn't meet anyone from Thousand Autumn, but he never would have thought that Nebulous had a professional like him. He told the guy in the tree through the dialogue box to listen to him. He said he would draw the aggro of his 3 summons onto himself and then activate his strongest defense setup. Student Inch told him to try to delay as long as possible. He said he needed him to find the best moment to use his best skill in order to kill him in one hit. Student Inch said there could only be one chance because he wasn't sure how high his DPS was. He asked if he understood. The guy said he understood and he could take it easy. He thought he had never seen Student Inch so serious even when he was fighting the pros from Thousand Autumn. Guy wondered who this guy was since he had never heard of Nebulous having someone like this. Ling Si said his timing was perfect and he would defeat them all with one fell swoop. He told the Spectral Warriors to show what they could do. The Spectral Warriors ran forward. Student Inch, putting his shield forward, ordered them to get into a good position to counterattack. Student obeyed. The Spectral Warriors began to strike Student Inch's shield. A huge cloud of dust rose up. Guy rushed towards the Spectral Warriors to attack. Swinging his sword, he struck one of them and the knight blocked the attack with his sword. The boy asked how this thing was able to block his attack with such ease. He asked how this summoned creature could be stronger than him. Ling Si, appearing behind his back, told him that he had at least feudal lord rank. Student Inch swung his shield. Standing between the guy and Ling Si, he blocked the attack using counter-strike. Ling Si, having lost some health points, frowned. A dialogue box described counter-strike, absorb the next non-elemental attack and lash it back at the opponent. This will push the opponent back, creating a large distance between you. If the counter is successful, a shield will also be generated. The ground beneath Student Inch's feet began to break. Raising his shield up, he used absolute defense, harden, enveloped in green energy. He shouted that the time is now. He gave the order to go. The dialogue box described absolute defense, harden, a skill that bears the title of absolute defense. Draw upon the earth's strongest strength to form a protective stone shield that absorbs all types of elemental damage. All damage taken is reduced by 70%. The knight and spectral warriors struck their swords at the vortex of green energy, and Student Inch used Sword of Bond. A dialogue box described Sword of Bond, exclusive skill for melee classes. Turn your courage and momentum into an unblockable force. The damage of your next attack will be tripled. Allies near you will obtain the same speed buff. No other skills can be used in the 3 seconds after the skill's activation. Student Inch, gritting his teeth, thought about why the characteristics of these two summoned creatures were so ridiculous. He thought that if absolute defense, harden wouldn't negate their attacks, they would have already defeated him. He thought that he should inform the guild head about this thief because aside from his skills, there are so many things that are way too strange about him. Ling Si stood in front of a whirlwind of stones and green energy. 3 elemental crystals appeared around Ling Si. With a smirk, he said that they would see which was better, Student Inch's defense or Ling Si's team's assault. Surrounded by flames, electricity, and water, the protagonist used the vessel of the restless chaos. Above the dome of green energy was a ball of electricity, water, and fire. Ling Si used Vessel of the Restless Chaos and Bloodthirsty Shadow, and a stream of fire, electricity, water, and dark red energy hit the green barrier. Student Inch shouted to the main character that he was a sheep, and no matter how much damage he dealt to him, he couldn't kill him. He yelled for him to feel triple the damage from his wolf. The guy struck with his sword. Ling Si said it was wishful thinking. The guy hit Ling Si with his sword, but he was immune to the attack. The dialogue box described Bloodthirsty Shadows, a thief-exclusive skill. Transform into multiple afterimages in an instant. Each afterimage will attack the nearest target and absorb 10% of the damage dealt as HP. The player is invulnerable in the afterimage state. This effect will last for 1.5 seconds. Student Inch exclaimed in surprise after noticing the invulnerability. Ling Si used Kiss of the Vile Serpent, and Student Inch found himself surrounded by purple energy. A huge purple serpent towered over the forest. Student Inch and his partner stood on all fours in the crater left by the main character's attacks. Student Inch, coughing, said it was a good thing he had no right to kill. He said he should hurry up and heal up. Above his head, you can see that he has little health left. Student Inch frowned tensely. Looking up, he saw a huge bird of yellow energy. A huge cloud of dust rose above the crater, and Coco Lai said that they should not forget about it. Standing on a tree, she lowered her bow down. The dialogue box read, "You have taken down the guild, Divine Chamber. Congratulations, you have gained 2 points." Coco Lai thought that this confirms that they all have fallen for his act. Ling Si stood there, smirking. A guy in the crowd looking at the screen exclaimed in surprise that Nebulous had defeated Divine Chamber. A guy in armor asked in surprise who the thief was. Another guy said his movements were too unpredictable. He said he didn't understand anything, but it looked really cool. Someone yelled about falling in love with this thief with a smug smile. Stillwaters, looking at Ling Si on the screen, said it was very good. Nebulous meeting room. Stillwaters, looking up, thought with a strained smile that he had found the perfect person to copy the future of the Nebulous Guild. After the first round of the special battle, Wolf and Sheep, in which Team Ling Si had amazingly defeated Divine Chamber, Coco Lai asked about the fact that if she remembered correctly, the reward for second place was 99 Torchfire. She said it should be, and she's not very good at math. Coco Lai strained to multiply by counting on her fingers. She suggested that 7 times 7 equals 48. Ling Si corrected her and said that 7 times 7 equals 49. He asked if her gym teacher taught her math in elementary school. Coco Lai irritably shouted that she was just a little bit wrong. While the results of the battles between the other teams were slowly revealed, the number of remaining teams quickly reached 100. With a score of 117 points, Nebulous took second place at the end of the first round. The dialogue box showed that Advent of Thousand Autumns had earned 126 points. Ling Si thought that as expected, the number 1 guild, Advent of a Thousand Autumns, was still in first place with a score of 126 points. He thought that Thousand Autumns was receiving 10,000 Torchfire for this round. Coco Lai said that this was already a good result, and this was the first time that Nebulous was able to take first place in a competition with Thousand Autumn and Divine Chamber. She added that there wasn't such a big difference between them and Thousand Autumn. Ling Si interrupted her and said, "What a shame." Coco Lai glanced at him. The protagonist with a gloomy face said that he had only met people from Divine Chamber and so hadn't crossed swords with Thousand Autumns. Coco Lai thought that if someone else had said that, he would have been considered crazy. She thought that Ling Si was really worthy of saying something like that. Ling Si frowned and said that they had to get to the first place in the next round, otherwise, given Thousand Autumn's abilities, it would be very hard for them to catch up. The dialogue box announced that the second round of the special battle was about to begin. It started counting down from 5. An eagle flew over the ruins of a modern city. Coco Lai stepped out of the portal. Looking at the ruins around her, she said that therefore, this would be their next stage. Turning around, Coco Lai asked if he was going to look around first or if they should stick together. Glancing back, she noticed that the main character was gone. She started frantically running around looking for Ling Si. Coco Lai, looking up, asked what was going on and if it was a solo mission. The dialogue box said, "Welcome to the second round of the special Torchfire battle, round 2, key parts." Coco Lai saw an image of half of a key. The rules as follows: the key part you possess can only be pieced together with your teammate's key part to become whole. She looked at her half of the key. The dialogue box says, "The key part you possess has a guiding function. You can use the guidance of the key to find your teammate." On the dialogue box was a compass with an arrow pointing in the direction to the coordinate where her teammate was. The dialogue box said, "You must find your teammate and complete the key within 1 hour. It will take 3 uninterrupted minutes to repair the key. If the process is interrupted, it will fail to be repaired and you must restart the process and the time counter will be reset." Coco Lai frowned and thought that this meant that she had to find Ling Si in an hour, of which 3 minutes would be spent repairing the key. The dialogue box says, "Once the key is repaired, head to the safe zone at the center and open the door to your Torchfire reward. The reward for this round is 1,000 Torchfire." She thought that at the end they would need to head to the safe zone in the center and open the reward door. She thought that should be it. The dialogue box said, "Note, both your key part and the restored key can be seized by other players." Coco Lai frowned and thought that she knew it couldn't be that simple. She thought she was willing to bet that this was the real meat of this round. The dialogue box says, "Players whose key part has been seized by others will be immediately disqualified and sent back to the resting zone to wait for the round to end. If the restored key is stolen, the whole team will be disqualified." Coco Lai looked at the dialogue boxes in surprise. Note, stolen key parts can still be made whole with the relevant key part. Your team doesn't need to be the original owner of the key parts to repair the key. She thought this was interesting, and if so, it opens up a lot more opportunities to get points. The dialogue box says, "Keys that have been completed from stolen parts can be used to increase the rank of the player's team-owned key. The higher the rank, the greater the rewards at the end when you open the door. You will receive an additional 100 Torchfire for every rank increment. If the team were to open the door with only 1 member remaining, the rewards will be halved. Key parts will not vanish, they can only be dropped." Coco Lai smiled and thought that in this case, in theory, if the team managed to collect all the remaining 999 keys, the maximum additional reward would reach 99,900 Torchfire. The dialogue box says there are 1,000 teams in this round. Therefore, there are 2,000 key parts that can be combined to form 1,000 keys. Coco Lai looked at the dialogue box in surprise and thought that the probability of something like this happening was extremely low. The dialogue box said that the countdown would begin soon. It wished good luck. Coco Lai, frowning, thought that surely there would be teams that would go straight to the door after they fixed their key so they could be safe with minimal reward. She figured they had 1 hour and they should regroup with Ling Si as soon as possible. 6 minutes later, someone in the ruins shouted not to even think about running away. Coco Lai, looking out from around the corner, thought that she should avoid any confrontations even if they were far below her level. Walking amongst the ruins, she thought that the first order of business was to meet Ling Si, and she'd better not attract unnecessary trouble. She used beastly detection, and above her head was a bird of yellow energy. Coco Lai, frowning, said something feeling. The dialogue box described beastly detection, archer exclusive active skill. Senses will be enhanced for some time. This increases your range for detecting hidden foes and seeing through invisibility skills. She saw several silhouettes of people in a ruined building. A yellow magical arrow appeared in her hand. After pulling the bowstring, Coco Lai thought that it was an ambush. She thought that she will drag them out one by one. Firing a purple magic arrow, she used Spider Domain. The dialogue box said, Spider Domain, Archer exclusive skill. Projectiles fired will turn into giant webs that will envelop the area. Like a spider on its web, players will be able to accurately pinpoint the exact locations of surrounding enemies, including invisible units. A huge purple web appeared in front of Coco Lai. Closing her eyes, she thought she had found the first one. Coco Lai shot a huge yellow magic arrow from her bow. It hit the building with an explosion. The guy fell among the debris of the building. The inscriptions above him read, critical hit, bonus ranged attack damage multiplied by 1.5. Critical weakness, 1 shot. The guy in the building yelled out that she was from Nebulous, which was ranked number 5 in the top of the guild. Another person said that they should team up to defeat the top guilds, and then they would have a higher chance of survival. Opening one eye, Coco Lai thought that the auras of her enemies were starting to become chaotic, and it looked like they were some second-rate guilds. Drawing the bowstring of her bow with a yellow magic arrow, she thought that she wouldn't waste any more time then. Firing the yellow magic arrow in the shape of beasts, she used Rapid Summon, Beast. A dialogue box described Rapid Summon, Beast, Archer exclusive skill. Projectiles fired will transform into beasts that will last for 6 seconds. These beasts will bite and tear into all enemies nearby. There's a small chance of causing the following status effects: wound, cripple, blind if fatally wounded. The status effect will last for 2 seconds. An explosion erupted from the shot, scattering the enemies to the sides. The guy yelled that there's no way to lock onto these things. Blue energy rushed from the enemies falling down into the dialogue box above Coco Lai. She received 5 parts of a key. The dialogue box says, notice, your team has obtained 3 bonus keys. Total number of bonus keys, 3. Holding the key in her hand, Coco Lai grinned and said that the repair was complete and she now had 3 keys. Looking at the dialogue box, she decided to continue moving towards Ling Si. She opened her mouth in surprise when she saw something. The dialogue box said, notice, your team has obtained 1 bonus key. Total number of bonus keys, 4. Coco Lai said that it looked like Ling Si had obtained 1 key as well. The dialogue box says, notice, your team has obtained 1 bonus key. Total number of bonus keys, 5. The number of keys obtained by their team was rapidly increasing. Coco Lai wondered what was going on. The dialogue box said, notice, your team has obtained 1 bonus key. Total number of bonus keys, 13. Looking at the rapidly increasing number of kills on the dialogue box, Coco Lai thought that the number was growing like crazy in such a short time. She thought about what was happening at Ling Si's place. Ling Si, surrounded by the bodies of the players, asked with a smirk who wanted to go next. The guy swallowed nervously. Ling Si said that it looked like their guilds had joined together. The disappearing bodies of players were lying on the ground. The protagonist asked if he could tell him how many guilds were in their secret alliance. He said that he originally wanted to go directly for Thousand Autumns, but he didn't expect their crowd to come looking for death themselves. Ling Si said that he was fine with that, but unfortunately, he couldn't stay here for long. The guy in armor cried out fearfully. Ling Si, with a sinister face, surrounded by bodies and electricity, spread his hands and said that what he hated the most was when others tried to pull shady tricks on him. He said that since they wanted to kill him, they better be prepared to get themselves killed. The guy in armor said that the ones who ambushed him were all killed, and this thief's attacks are too terrifying. He offered to retreat, because even all of them together were no match for him. The guy in mage clothes said they could run away because they had to defend part of their guild. The guy in armor said he didn't care about that anymore. He was stabbed in the back and screamed. The guy in wizard clothes yelled that this guy was really strong. Another guy said that he didn't think his ability was much different from the incredibly strong people in Thousand Autumns. Ling Si was running after them with an evil smile and stabbing them in the back with his dagger. A guy looking at the screen asked in surprise if it was a horror movie. The guy with dark hair said that this thief from Nebulous already stood out so much in the previous round, but in this round, he seemed to be even more domineering. He said that the other contestant from Nebulous is their vice guildmaster, Coco Lai. Ling Si and Coco Lai were shown on the screen with the caption, Nebulous highlight reel. Guy said he knows Coco Lai is very strong, but now it looks like she only came here to play the foil role. The guy said rather look at the forum. Looking at the forum, they exclaimed that on the Heavenland forum, it's like everyone has gone crazy and the entire main page is solely about this thief. The people in the pillar building looked at the dialogue boxes. Stillwaters, looking at the dialogue box, thought about taking care to keep this news trending. Smiling, he thought, this is going exactly as he wanted it to. Looking at the dialogue box, Stillwaters thought that if his performance was shocking, it would naturally lead to attention and speculation. He thought that it would also pave the way for the next step of the plan. He thought that if Ling Si's performance was so-so or disappointing, there would be no follow-up, and it looked like his gamble had paid off. With a smirk, he thought that Ling Si hadn't let him down, and this time his plan was successful. A person in the crowd exclaimed that this forum thief was from their guild. A girl walking by greeted Stillwaters as she passed by. He nodded back and thought that things like Torchfire dungeons weren't the most important thing to them, nebulous, at the moment. He thought, looking at the luxurious door, that he was just taking this opportunity to find an even more domineering person to lead Nebulous to the top of Heavenland. Frowning, Stillwaters thought, hoping that Ling Si would be able to return with flying colors. He thought that he would soon attain a new status, however, it wouldn't be easy because that person from Thousand Autumns was also participating in this competition. He thought that he hoped that he wouldn't meet that troublesome person. Ling Si was standing on the roof of a building. A girl with purple hair wearing white mage clothes with a purple magic circle appeared above him. Flying in front of the protagonist's face, she asked him if he was looking for her. Ling Si, frowning, asked who she was. The girl paused and extended her index finger forward. She asked with a smile if she should say that he was looking for people from her guild, Thousand Autumns. Ling Si asked if she was from Thousand Autumns. He thought that she had a terrifying concealment ability, and he didn't even notice anything when she got so close. Licking her lips, the girl told him not to panic. Pointing her index finger at him, she said that she wasn't the kind of person who would take advantage of those who were caught off guard. She said that she was able to deceive him because she was using a relatively rarely used concealment skill. The girl said she wanted to surprise him, and they have all the time in the world to play. The protagonist, frowning, noticed her clothing and said that, unless he was mistaken, it had to be a deviant mage outfit. He asked if she was a mage. Ling Si thought that he seemed to know her from his past life. He wondered who she was. The girl playfully asked where he was looking. She said he was right and asked if he wanted a reward. Ling Si, blushing, asked if she was going to keep talking like that. The girl, grinning, replied that it was her persona. Standing on a staff floating in the air, she said that she had been watching him since the last round. Touching her lips with her hand, she said that he was indeed an interesting and strong man. Ling Si asked why she didn't attack him if she was able to get so close to him without making a sound. The girl shrouded in purple energy appeared beside Ling Si and said with a smile that she thought he already knew the answer to this question. The girl moved closer to his face and said that it was because she was his fan. Ling Si looked at her and blushed slightly. The protagonist jumped back and the girl told him not to be so resistant towards his fan. She said that she wasn't one of those crazy stalkers. Ling Si frowned, wondering if there was something wrong with the head of this mage from Thousand Autumns. The protagonist tensely opened his eyes, remembering that her behavior was very similar to the person known as the most attractive, most enchanting, and best mage in Advent of 1,000 Autumns from his past life. He thought in surprise that even the head of 1,000 Autumns couldn't handle her. The girl said that she was the #1 mage of the 1,000 Autumns Guild, Whitebone Temptress. She added that he could just call her Temptress. She is a charm mage, which is a special post-promotion deviant class. Ling Si thought it is definitely her. Temptress said she was very pleased to meet him. The protagonist thought that he might be fooled by her attractiveness and charm. Frowning, he thought that in his past life, this woman had actually turned the Divine Chamber Guild head into a wretched mess. The image of Temptress with eyes glowing purple appeared in Ling Si's mind, and he thought that while surrounded by hundreds of Divine Chamber Guild members, she strolled idly from the tightly packed encirclement. Frowning, the protagonist thought that she was strong. Temptress told Ling Si that she knew that he was looking for 1,000 Autumns Guild members, and he wanted to take them out of the game. Ling Si asked about the fact that he had just come to him on his own. Temptress licked her lips and said, "Came just to tell him." She asked about another Nebulous Guild member being here as well. She said that her team member had probably already found her, and this guy is a rude guy who doesn't know how to be gentle to the opposite sex. Ling Si frowned in surprise, thinking that their target was Coco Lai. Temptress, pointing her finger at the protagonist, suggested playing a game. She said that the loser will give up on the second round of this competition. She asked if that was okay with him. Ling Si tensely asked what the game was. Frowning, he thought about whether Coco Lai would be able to cope on her end. Temptress, blushing, said that she preferred to be straightforward. A magic circle appeared in front of her hand, and she offered to compete and see whose fight would end first, Coco Lai's or theirs.